Hello, my name is Owen. Today I'll be doing a quick review of Amanda Montell's Cultish, The Language of Fanaticism. What I want to do is give a brief overview of the book's about, tell you the things that I liked, and tell you the things that I didn't like. Jumping straight into it, as for the overview, this is like a linguistic language analysis of cults and things that are cult-ish. And how they use their language to like manipulate people for one way or another, and just like other like linguistic techniques that they use, while also exploring like the concept of like people that are like brainwashed by cults, because a lot of people think like how could you get trapped in like a cult like Jonestown, like how stupid could you be? And like the author explores like this idea and how like maybe it's not like only like stupid weak people who get trapped in cults, but like just how language works and how people's brains works and like their sense of community, how someone like normal could like end up being trapped in one of these groups. Overall, extraordinarily easy read. It's only about like 250 pages, very concisely written, doesn't get like overly bogged down in like scientific terms or like overly like word linguistic stuff. I binge read it in about a day and it was very, very enjoyable. A couple standout parts was the beginning when she like introduced the concept of like language and how groups like the Jonestown cult or like Scientology, how they basically like create their own verbiage to like initiate you in this group, because like they think that like how many groups do this. It's like they create their own vocabulary. That way, when you start using it and it changes your like real life vocabulary, you feel more ingrained in the cult, and it's just like an initiation thing. Which I thought when I was reading that, I thought of like Booktube and like just like YouTube in general, but like how like phrases like TBR or like book haul and like stuff like that like are like made up words that like out of the context of Booktube, like you might have to explain like what you're talking about. Like, oh, like I checked out my TBR and like the book haul wasn't quite the ones that I wanted. And like people are like, wait, like where are you hauling books to? And like, what is the acronym? That's like a very like slight example, but just like how groups, like whether they're cults or not, I'm not saying this is a cult. I'm not saying that. How they, how they would like, create their language as like a sense of community and stuff like that. That was very interesting. And also like the concept of like thought terminating cliches, where stuff like everything happens for a reason. If someone says that to you, like you can't really like respond to that, because you can't really like argue against that because it doesn't really mean anything. So it's like, oh, like I can't believe like I got hit by a car. Like, well, everything happens for a reason. It's like, yeah, I guess, so I can't talk anymore. And it's just like how groups like that use stuff like that to like kind of like silence people. It's very, very interesting. And the author has a lot of like interviews that are interspersed with this book that are very, very fascinating for people of all different kinds of groups. And then like another part that I liked was just the part of like actual groups, like Jonestown, her experiences with Scientology, stuff like that. Like it gets really weird. And then the other one, I would say the part going into things that I didn't like, there was only one part that I was like a little bit disappointed in, because she goes from like famous groups like Jonestown, Scientology, and then she goes into I think like multi-level marketing schemes and like how they use language, like, oh, like be a girl boss queen, like join a pyramid scheme, stuff like that. And then the last section is about like influencers, going back to the Booktube scene. But that section is more about like spiritual influencers, like people who claim that like they're presenting a lifestyle choice and stuff like that. But I was hoping she would actually go into more like the influencer thing and how people like worship celebrities nowadays. And the author talks a lot about like the absence of like spirituality and religion in like especially the United States in this day and age, and how that has led to like an increase of culture-like groups. Like, and there's also a section about like exercise groups like Peloton and like Soul Cycle and stuff like that, with like the language, and you do it every day, and like you join a community, and it's like kind of like, oh, like you're stopping Peloton, eh? Oh wow, what does that say about you? Type of stuff. But I was hoping for the influencer one, she would talk about like celebrity culture and how people like develop this following where it's like whatever Taylor Swift says, you gotta do. Am I right? But I guess it's not entirely the same thing that she was talking about or she wanted to talk about. I was a little bit disappointed that one wasn't a little bit more interesting, because like while I know of like excuse me, spiritual influencers and stuff like that, it's not really something I came across like on hand, so I couldn't really relate to that as much as like maybe like people I knew from Facebook who were trying to sell me Tupperware, or like Peloton stuff, which is like so popular nowadays, or like CrossFit groups and stuff like that. So I was just hoping we go a little bit more into like a commentary on like celebrity culture and like the worshiping of celebrities, but didn't really go there, which is my only disappointment. It's like like if y'all doesn't want to go there, you don't want to go there. I was just thinking that's where she was gonna go, which is why I was a little bit disappointed. But other than that, it's a very, very easy read. I really did enjoy it, and if you're interested in like linguistics or like language and how people use language to manipulate others, or just like you're interested in like cults and like listen to like cult podcasts and stuff like that, this is a great book for that. I think it says a lot about like these groups and gives you a little bit of background on these groups, but also it says a lot about like how the way like humans think, which I think is really fascinating. So yeah, overall, I definitely recommend it. And that is Cultish by Amanda Montell. Thanks for sticking around.